Welcome back to the Chef JKP podcast, and we are now going to continue with part 2 of the incredible story of Greg Malouf. Greg, welcome back.
Well, I thought I was boring you. So.
Not at all, not at all. No way,
Thank you.
not possible. Now, you touched upon the fact, number one, you are an award-winning author with some really incredible books.
With some sins, yeah.
With some sins. Now, those books... all absolute classics. My absolute favorite for me is a New Middle Eastern Food.
Yeah.
That for me is the one that I really love, and I'm a big fan of that one. For you, out of all of the books that you have written, which one would you say has been the most challenging to write?
There's actually two, and these are travel cookbooks. Turquoise and Saraban. Turquoise book on Turkey, and Saraban on Iranian food, Persian cuisine. Super challenging, especially Iran. It was extraordinary. 6 weeks there, but it was, and I knew very little about Persian food. And I did a lot of research, as much as I could. Lucy did most of it, of course. But no, I tried to research as much as I could about Persian food. And I think the biggest challenge was look, again, this is an interpretation. My books are interpretation of what I believe in, and I'm lucky that I have a palate that kind of understands that. But Persian food, it looks, if you look at a kebab and rice, and it's pretty hard to make look attractive, especially a kebab. So my challenge was to make it look super attractive, and it was easy to make it taste good because their food is extraordinary to eat. Especially things like fezzenjeune, which is a duck dish that's cooked for many hours with pomegranate and walnuts. And when you break it, when it's cooked for many hours, it just breaks down and it looks like a brown mess.
But tasting incredible.
So, you taste it and it's actually extraordinary. So I had to work out some way to keep the integrity of the dish, but make it 21. And that was the biggest challenge with a lot of their dishes. And I loved it because it gave me scope to, dance around or play around with their cuisine, but keep the integrity, the respect for the dish itself, and I didn't want to put sumac or za'atar or whatever into there. They don't even use it anyway. But it was really about the look of we eat in a lot of ways with our eyes, with our palates, and with our memories as well, which is a big part of it. So, and also the book on Turkey was again another challenge, because Turkish food is incredible, but if you look at it, if you look at the way it's photographed, the way it looks, it can be much better, but the tastes are extraordinary. So I had that challenge of making Turkish food look gorgeous and beautiful and this and that. So that was I'd love that. It was pretty. It was a lot of work involved and a lot of the thought process, and I always questioned, gee, am I going to upset anyone? And then I thought, no, look, I haven't destroyed their culture, their dish. It's just the way I'm thinking about how it could be. And it's about time someone broke the boundaries. And if I look at Lebanese food, it needs it's hit a brick wall. It's hit a brick. I mean, Arabic food has hit a brick wall, and it shouldn't. It should. If you look at other cuisines, they've just progressed like you wouldn't believe. And Arabic food is just bang. It's had this brick wall in front of them for too long. So I don't want to be alone on this. And there's a few other great chefs out there that are trying to push the boundaries but keep the integrity. And these are Lebanese, Syrian, Jordanian chefs that are damn talented. But I guess I'm lucky that I have a Lebanese pal. I was brought up in a Lebanese household, but I have this new world thinking or Australian way of dealing with things. So I can look on the outside in and think, I love this, but, it can look a lot better.
But look, when I first came to the Middle East 2012, I had no idea what Middle Eastern food was. And it wasn't until it was cooked by proper Syrian, Iraqi, all these chefs showing me their home dishes. I never realized how incredible a warm yogurt could taste.
Oh, yeah.
So I completely agree with you, because if you look at French, Italian, Greek,
Japanese, South American.
You have the scope of the base, as it were. However, you can always take it up another level, and I completely agree with you. Not necessarily molecular, for example, but absolutely to the next level. Now, Greg, considering that you have written these books, would you ever consider writing an autobiography, for example?
Well, I'm not ready for that. That means I'm close to, retiring, and I don't want to do that. I mean, we've got another book on the agenda. In fact, we've got a meeting with the publishers about our next book, and I'm pretty excited about the next one.
Amazing.
Because I've always wanted to do this book. And it's not a biography. It's a book that's well, I can't really say what it is, but it's a pretty cool book. And it's quite, I guess, quite unusual in a way. I don't think it's being tackled the subject's being tackled wherever, but not by the Middle East.
Okay.
So
looking forward. So then, you said you came to Dubai. So what did bring you to Dubai exactly?
Being able the opportunity to cook in the Middle East, firstly. Secondly, to be close to Beirut, to Lebanon. So I could commute and eventually relocate there and live there. At the moment, no, that's not going to happen, but unfortunate. So I'm here, and I'm going to stay here. This is my home for. It's really hard to, you can't, this is my home for the moment. I don't know. This is my home. Anyway.
And the thing is, the massively exciting thing was when you first came here was that we also know about Zahira, that you had this really beautiful restaurant, and again the food that all the chefs, all the critics, everybody came for was the incredible, delicious, wonderful food that you had there. You had the twist. Tell us all about the menu for that.
Yeah, look, Zahira is a really pretty restaurant. It was ideal, but location was a little tough. The owner's a little tougher, which kind of led me into moving on. But the food itself, it was, again, a great representation of the cuisine of the whole of the Middle East, whether it's North African, Persian, Turkish, Jordanian, Syrian, Egyptian. Again, interpretations, but I was very focused on the produce, and it's always it's a tough one, produce here. I mean, it's a lot better than when I first arrived, 2013. It was, a lot of stuff. When I was at Clay, it was all, most of it, maybe 80% was imported and expensive as hell. Now, I go to the fruit and vegetable wholesalers every now and then to see what's going on there. Pretty decent arrangements that they have, and produce. Things have got a lot better than what they were. Seafood also. There's farms here now, so at least you can get fresh, super fresh sea bass and sea bream and salmon and kingfish and
oysters. Also barramundi. Farm barramundi. What?
But yeah, it's a lot better. I mean, this is a desert, so I think that at one stage the biggest issues I had was the fact that the farms, they were cool. They'd grow produce, but it was how they were pulled out of the ground and how they were packaged and how they were transported. They were I think they were the bigger issues. I mean, the growing stuff here it's proven that it can be done. It's just the way it's packaged and processed and shipped. And also when it arrives in kitchens, they spray it with all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, there is a lack of respect as well.
Well, yeah, that's the other part that's, for a chef, chefs, they're on this planet to work with beautiful produce and respect the produce. And, when something that's 4 days old arrives in your kitchen, you're already on the back foot thinking, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you have something that's sparkling and talking to you, man, it's such a pleasure to...
Yeah, and you're already halfway there.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is a foodie podcast. What I want to tap into is your favourite or favourites childhood food memory.
Oh, that's easy. Well, is this desert island or just childhood? I can put them both together.
Put them both together.
Yeah. Look, I was, as a kid, I was in love with, it's called Aruz Labni. It's the bride's yogurt. And it's just Arabic bread with homemade labni or yogurt cheese with some mint, olive oil. It's pretty simple, and it's rolled up. I just couldn't get enough of it as a kid. And whether it was after school or it was packed in my lunchbox or whatever, Mum always knew that was it, and I'd be happy little falafel. So, yeah, look, there's that. There's a lot of other things. Kibbe Ney is my... If I knew there was Kibbe Ney and it was exceptional, I wouldn't be sitting with you now. I'd be making a beeline for it. But in Dubai, it's a bit tough to find it. Mm-hmm. If I was in Lebanon, man, I'd be.
I've heard it's incredible.
Yeah. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Yeah. Also, aspine, which is raw liver, which is not everyone's cup of tea. That's a brekkie thing. My father used to. Actually, my father was the experimental cook in the family, and I loved what he was doing. Mum was very regulation stuff, but Dad was always, on the weekends it was his kitchen. He'd go to the markets and buy all sorts of things, wild rabbits and livers and sweetbreads and brains and stuff. And so I got my appetite from all that as well. Brains. If Mum made brain omelettes, with cheese. I couldn't get enough of it. And so, I mean, I can see it evident in what I do, whether I'm writing a menu or it might be in a cookbook as well. But again, the memory is always an important part of the palate. And, you know, the childhood plays a very significant role. So as a kid, I just, you know, there was a lot of stuff. Stuffed vine leaves, man. Olives, the list goes on. The spreads we'd have on celebrating Christmas or Easter or whatever. We used to go to my grandparents and I'd be kicked out of the kitchen because I'd be sneaking little bits and pieces and as a kid. But yeah, I had a great childhood with food.
Amazing.
Really did.
So the next one, Greg, from all of your travels around the world, which restaurant in particular for you would you say has been the meal of a lifetime? Which chef or street corner or street cart would you say for you has got a particular fond memory?
Look, there's several dishes that I mean I could talk about things in roast goose noodle soup in Hong Kong, but as a kid training in Paris, my aunt took me to this restaurant, and it was Italian, but I'll never forget the dish. It was zampone, which is the stuffed pig's trotter with cotechino through it, and it was in a broth with lentils.
Oh my goodness!
And I started eating, and I looked at her, and well, you know, why? It's taken you this long to bring me here? I couldn't. It was extraordinary, and that memory still. I couldn't even. It's a tough dish to replicate.
Yeah,
making cotechino is a tough one, and to bone pig trotters, man. I mean, I used to do it as years ago, but it was a laborious thing, and I had a couple of friends. I had a chef with me, Harry, who's a Cypriot, amazing chef. He was at Le Gavroche and whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, his skills in butchery were extraordinary. And I remember he was working with me one day, and and I had pig's trotters in, and he said, "Oh, I'll do the trotters." And I said, "Really?" And I said, "Okay." And I looked at him, and I thought, I'm going to time you. And it took him a minute, or just under a minute, to bone one trotter. And I said, what the hell? Yeah. He was extraordinary. And that was the start of our relationship. Harry's a dear friend and also a brilliant chef, yeah.
Now, coming up through the ranks, many apprentices, commis, chef de parties, sous chefs, exec chefs, at some point or another, you make a mistake in the kitchen where you really stuff it up. And it's not funny at the time, but years and years later, it is, well, sort of still hilarious. Which one would be yours?
Well, look, a commercial kitchen is always things that go wrong, which I think at the time actually at the time you do laugh. But I think going back further, I had a few of my own little silly things. And when I was a kid, and I remember at my grandmother's place, she had chickens in the backyard, and I loved chicken, and so she cut the head of a chicken, and I was sitting there watching it, and I wanted to, and the chicken was running around. I was chasing this chicken around the backyard, because I knew that she was going to cook it, and I didn't want it to escape. So that was a highlight for me. But going, commercial kitchens there's a lot of errors, mistakes, and like you give an apprentice a box of. No, you actually ask an apprentice, can you grab a box of zucchinis and cut them, and then kind of just slice them roughly because I'm going to turn it into a soup. And so they grab a box of cucumbers and and you don't know that's until it's too late. So stuff like that. I've seen all sorts of weird things, really bad things. I had a kitchen hand who stuck his hand in he dropped the tongs in a deep fryer, and it was not good. And that's not really laughable stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
Who would you say, from again experience for you personally, who would you say are your top 3 culinary gurus?
Claudia Rodin, she's the doyen of Middle Eastern food. She's an incredible writer, and her knowledge on Middle Eastern food is just, I don't know anyone that can surpass her. She's extraordinary. And she was a great, I think as a kid, I read her book. It's called The Book on New Middle Eastern Food, released 30, 40 years ago, I don't know. And I just couldn't get enough of it. And I gave it to Mum, and she started reading it, thinking, oh, okay. And I think I got the acknowledgement from Mum about, if Mum liked it, then, gee, this woman is, I just loved the book. And I actually met her in London as well, which was a real treat. In fact, cooked for her. I was staying with my ex-in-laws' place, and at the time, I don't know, I held a dinner party. I can't remember why, but she was invited to the dinner party. So, man, it was a treat and a half. But the other look, there's several chefs in Australia that are quite remarkable, and they're very humble and they're very talented as well. And if I look at Europe, I was fascinated by this book called The Great Chefs of France or something, and it just listed all the 3-star Michelin guys, and at the time it wasn't so much the Michelin stuff, it was their stories. And you read them, and if I read it now I think, no, that's not quite true. Chefs don't get up at 4 a.m. and make croissants for their staff. But anyway, these guys were legends. Michel Girard, Paul Bocuse, and Trago brothers, all those people that they're probably, I don't think they're Roger Verger, and I'm not sure if they're around now, but at that time, man, they were extraordinary to me. And it's not as though I wanted to be like them. I just loved their stories and the fact that they were on this pedestal as great great influences and great people in this world. So they all of them, they were all Joël Robuchon.
Yeah, Robuchon, absolute legend.
Yeah, I went on my honeymoon in Paris and went to his restaurant back in 96 or something, and I just almost wept. And he was there. It was like, it was extraordinary. Lunch. There's a few There's actually a couple of Austrian chefs when I was working in Austria, there were some amazing chefs there that did pastry. Look, I'm sure in America there's some amazing guys. There's actually a guy in, I can't remember his name. I met him once or twice in South America. Not that I was there. He was in Australia, and I met him. I think he was Brazilian, or he was into native produce and stuff. He was incredible. He's incredible to talk to. I like the stories that some chefs have, and they're super engaging and make sense as well.
Now, you know that there's a lot of, due to the pandemic, especially from last year, there's been a huge amount of budding chefs, let's say, home cooks.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And also professional cooks that have come through the ranks. What would be your advice to these people to have to who really want to be chefs for the rest of their lives? What would be your advice to them?
Well, yeah, there's a few things. I think they need to maybe let go of fear and ego, because they're destructive.
Absolutely destructive.
If you can do that, then you're halfway there. And also, it's so important. I see this time and time again: restraint in what you put on a plate. You don't need to have 45 different ingredients on a plate. And I know that tweezers are there for a reason, but it's the fingers that should be doing the work. I understand why tweezers are there, and I've got a pair myself, but it's really that, get your hands in there and touch and feel and push and probe. And if you're going to present something, there's no better way.
And understand as well. You need to understand.
Yeah. But it is, restraint. The fear stuff is massive, and the ego is like, that overtakes you.
I think that's the chef's worst enemy, almost.
Well, it's anyone's worst enemy. It's kind of, it's something that everyone has, but it's hard to, some people find it very difficult to control. Some people love it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Great advice. Now, Greg, if people want to see what you are doing or get hold of you, how can they do that?
Well, I'm doing a lot of, because of what's going on now, I was doing a lot of travelling what's going on. But now I'm here and doing private events, dinner parties, and I consult for a few places, which I'm actually enjoying. I've actually got a Persian dinner, a series of Persian dinners coming up in April, which I super look forward to. They're 12 or 13 dishes, again interpreted Persian dishes, but the venue is extraordinary. I've never seen a place like this in this part of the world. This is like, I thought I was in Melbourne I thought I was in London when I walked into this space. Huge ceilings, and it feels like you're in Arab world, but it's so elegant and opulent. It's near Cassette.
Okay. Yeah.
Gorgeous, but that'll happen. I think from the 19th or something, and it's 12-day pop-up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the website, your website?
Well, it's probably easier. Instagram, Greg Malouf Chef is probably an easier. Website's gregmalouf.com, but yeah, the Instagram is more engaging. There's some, it's just photos of food, but what better way to talk to someone?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, can I just say, first of all, it has been an absolute honour to have you here. On behalf of the Chef JKP podcast, I would really honestly like to say thank you so very, very much for coming on and talking to us. And it has been absolutely incredible and inspiring to hear your story and for you to be on the show.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. I love... I'm glad there's no cameras. And it's nice just doing a one-on-one chat. I mean, this is like, there's no... it's just it's actually a very natural thing. And talking food is pretty easy, I think, for most people.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.